And welcome back to the second segment of our show. This morning we have switched gears from discussing hurricane preparedness to the 124th, Penn Relays. That being said, we have been joined on the set this morning by Dr. Jeremy Cayetano from Ecumenical High School. Good morning, she's the principal. We've also been joined by James Cordes, the Penn Relays team sponsor. Got it correct? Good morning. And Quincy Coleman, he's a student athlete from the Ecumenical High School in Dangriga. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's begin by talking about the Penn Relays. What is this particular activity and how did Ecumenical become a part of it?
Okay, I will talk about how Ecumenical became a part of it, and I will ask Mr. Cordes, who has more experience in the Penn Relays, to talk about the Penn Relays part.
Sure.
Yeah.
Last year, Mr. Cordes visited our school. Well, some things happened before that, but he visited our school and he expressed interest in having our students go to Philadelphia to run in the Philadelphia Penn Relays. We were excited because it was the first time I was hearing about the Penn Relays, but hearing that it's a gateway to the Olympics and all of that, and we just have to register, we just have to be running our students just have to be running at a particular level, and we could go. The things that would have hindered us would have been finances and so on. But we were excited, and so we began to prepare, especially in the preparation of the students. And then interest began to wane, but Mr. Cordes was always, every month we would get some kind of a communication from Mr. Cordes. How is it going? Are you preparing? And so on. And then we came to the frightening realization that financially we were not ready. So we approached our Board of Governors with a deal. It will cost about $20,000. If we can get 10,000, we will find 10,000. And we were all bought in, and that's how we ended up in Philadelphia.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's interesting. And we'll get back to what it was like to fundraise, because I'm sure that's a challenge in itself.
Yes.
But I want to bring it over to James in discussing what you saw in these students that made you realize that they would be fit to compete in this competition.
Well, before, I looked at Belize overall, and I've always wanted to do some work with Belize. I've actually came on your show before
I remember.
with Kyle and Ozzy talking about that. So I always wanted to work with a school from Belize, with students from Belize. I've been around the Penn Relays for a long time. I've assisted schools from St. Vincent, pioneered the first school and then a second one joined for the past eight years. So when I got to Philadelphia, we had a series of meetings, including a broadcast here. And we put a bulletin out about inviting interesting PE teachers and personnel from sports in different institutions to attend a meeting in Dangriga. Only one PE teacher showed up, and that was Mr. Gary Francisco from Ecumenical. So because he was interested, the only one who seems interested, then I really wanted to visit their school and have further conversations, and that's everything just grew from there.
And when you saw the talent that Ecumenical had?
Well, it was it was a no-brainer. If the coach wants to pursue it, and then he has a lot of stats already with other sports, also basketball, and overall with cultural shows, you could see some energy in the institution. And all of these energy also takes vigor, which you need for track and field. So it was just, the interest was right there.
So how did you get involved, Quince?
Well, firstly, it started because of a Hope Run project. I believe in Mr. Kyle Castillo. And it grew from there because it eventually passed on to the school along with Mr. Gary Francisco, our PE teacher. And eventually developed the love for track and field from a very young age. And I gradually grew into it, and I actually started to love it. And in terms of the school, me and my other friends, classmates, we started getting together and we started work out along with Brandon Flores. He's a co-coach alongside Mr. Gary Francisco, and we started working out and doing different things, and it became very passionate in a sense, because it was like very overwhelming knowing that you can achieve so many things if you just put your mind to it.
Now we know that people are involved in different types of sports in Belize. Athletics perhaps isn't as strong as we would like it to be, although there very clearly seems to be a raw talent. Kaina Martinez is from the South. She has excelled in her own career just by her own motivation for the most part. And I know when you came to talk about the Hope Run project, a part of it was to be able to provide a stimulus of sort in getting people engaged in running. Do you think that this has been able to be a part of the catalyst behind the movement at Ecumenical, finding the funds and pushing their students forward?
Well, the Hope Run, the 5K was done, and I think it was done in July.
Yeah.
And no other ones. There was no other fundraiser or any other drive in that sense. But I think it opened the door for people to look at track and field, which was one of the purposes, to kind of start recreating a running culture. Clearly there's a running culture if you have an Olympian coming out of Belize. There are people here who could run. And there are a lot of Garifuna people who are known for running from all the way back in St. Vincent. And protecting against the British and stuff, you have to be able to run. They had guns and you just run. And so it's there, but Ecumenical, when I looked at a lot of the institutions, I saw, and because we have the 5K in the South, then you looked at the schools around and see the participations of persons who was around. So there were some athletes from Ecumenical who actually did what they were supposed to do in that exercise, and so you start looking at that institution.
Yeah.
What has been the performance level coming out of Ecumenical in terms of honing these talented athletes and being able to deliver on that particular stage?
Well, it was a short period of time when it really would have come together, because the initial, it was in July, and then not a lot of work has been done between, because I noticed Belize has some structural organizing when it comes to issues, when it comes to the different sports has a different time frame during the year, and then you put some things on the back burner. Track and field wouldn't really work well that way. You gotta continue to run all year long.
All the time.
And so now I think that's something that Ecumenical will learn to do better. And so it's a lesson. But in terms of harnessing, I think they pulled the persons together who was at that competent level. And as long as the qualifying times was met, you present them. And when they're on the track, you just got to put them there, and then they're going to do their best.
Dr. Cayetano, talk to us about being able to gain the support you needed to have the team travel.
Okay, majority of it came from the staff, I must say. We had a meeting when we realized, okay, we need to raise all of this money. We called the sports committee together. I remember it was a Saturday, so we were already wondering, okay, it's a Saturday. This was a Saturday before we came back from the Easter holidays. How many people will come on a Saturday? Everybody showed up except one person who was late, and she wanted to know exactly what was happening. So there was excitement. And from that initial meeting, we said, okay, this is the situation. We're at the base of a mountain, but we will climb over this mountain. Now let's discuss how we're going to get there. And there were ideas here and there were ideas there. we decided one big thing that we needed to do was to include the entire school. So we had a dinner where all the students were encouraged and majority of them participated. All of these initiatives were from people on the sports committee. That is Loani Popper, that is Erica Jang, that is Gary Francisco, that is Michael Derkutso. That is, they will murder me dead if I don't remember all of them. Miss Virgin Bermudez. And so.
It'll come to you. So the staff rallied together to be able to raise the funds.
Yes. We had a telethon where we had a dollar drive, and then we were going to have another one. But we don't really give anybody anything when you have a dollar drive, so we were not really comfortable. For the publicity was good, but we want to do things where you are getting something for something. We give you a plate of food, you give us a $5, $10. We wash your car, you give us. So we kind of backed off of the dollar drive because of that reason. But that generated a lot of interest as well. And then I have to mention the community people, Mr. Basilio, Zabaneko Plum, and Belizean Dreams, which are big time. We just had another project with Mr. Montano, big sponsor as well. And then Dangraga Town Council, Mr. Humphreys is the mayor. Our sports director, Mr. Francisco, is a counselor. Big support came from there. Dangraga Land Developers, DCs and Sons, and so.
So you
All
got
the names
the
are not
community
coming.
support. And a part of it really is, I think, when people started to understand that the Penn Relays were a big deal, and that obviously there had been identified talent. I want to hear from the athlete perspective what it was like. So you traveled to Philadelphia, and you're thrown in with the best of them to compete.
Well, firstly, it's kind of it's a overwhelming experience for me on a whole, and my other teammates. Our biggest challenge on a whole was getting acclimatized. Because we were training, yes, but we were training in the heat.
In April, when it is very hot for us, and they had a late winter too. So what was it like when you got there? What was the temperature?
Pretty much chilly. I didn't check the time, the temperature, because we were all busy and excited about, giving it our all, and it was basically I would say a shock proof for me in a sense, because I did not expect my body to adapt to that type of weather, so it was shock proof for me. And getting used to the weather and everything on a whole was a challenge, but we overcome it. And it's like what I shared with the guys, without God, none of this would have been possible. And I keep reminding them, because God is, a lot of time, you forget about God, and He's the real reason, the real deal behind the whole thing. And getting climatized and everything with the guys, it was fun on a whole, I must say. And
what was the pressure like of performance?
With the crowd and everything, because it was a big crowd. I got nervous, kind of like right now, kind of nervous. But the experience and the exposure, everything, it kind of on the track on a whole, you just blend in, and I kind of lost, right? But
so when you're at the starting line.
Well, at the starting line, I was the third leg.
Okay.
So in the 4x400. And at the starting line, hearing that gunshot, the gunshot go, and it was like, all right, it's no. That was the key. It's no. And the first lap went, and it's like Kendall took the first lap, and you can clearly see whereby the weather was starting to affect us in a sense, because we trained yes for the full 400 drive, but giving that extra force and everything behind it, and at the same time at that I would say the 300-meter mark, it's like right at that point there, it got hard for us to even push harder, because you exert yourself on the whole wing and adapting to the temperature and everything. But overall, we pushed hard, very hard, and even on my lap, personally, I gave it my all, pushing, and it's like you wanted to shut down at a moment, but all I remember is what my coach told me, along with Mr. Cordis: when your feet get tired, it's that moment in time you start running with the heart.
So what is the one takeaway from this experience that you would want to share with any other young athlete coming out of Ecumenical who would aspire to represent Belize at the Penn Relay?
On a personal note, I like to tell them the sky is the limit. And never be afraid. And don't let anyone tell you can't do it. And don't forget God, because without Him, like I said before, nothing is possible. And never, it's good to be afraid at sometimes, because, you know, I'm afraid of doing something. But if I can overcome that, I can overcome anything I want to do.
Now, James, talk to us about the performance of the students, because this is not just about having representation at the Penn Relays. It really is a precursor to what could potentially be a professional career.
Yes. The students overall, the Stann Creek Ecumenical they wouldn't perform at the top of the list by any measure. We're talking about in the small schools where they compete in the small school division. You have over 400 schools, and they would have placed about 150 something. Now, if you're just going in for the first time in an event that's been taking place for 124 years, so you would have had schools who've been attending that event for over 100 years, and so there's a repetition. And you have a school it's the only school from Central America, I think, since 1937 that would have gone to the Penn Relays. If they came in 399 out of 400, they would have still done well, just to be able to do it and break that ice. Now, so they would have been better than more than 130, 40 schools, which is excellent going in. Now, it's not going to be an exhibition showing anymore. Now Ecumenical, once they're going to go or any other school, they have to be ready to do some damage. It's very expensive, and it's a lot of work. And so I believe that they're going to step up and really, you know, because now there's a longer period to prepare. And some of the students who would have gone, some of them wouldn't return because they would have exited high school. But the few who would remain, they could actually help the new brood that's coming in to make it better.
So what does this mean, Dr. Cayetano? Does this mean we have a training schedule for ecumenical athletes for track and field to potentially go back to the Penn Relays next year?
Absolutely. I was there, so I saw the students run. I saw people running past our students. I did not like it. I saw the heart that they had, and I saw all that they did. And so I said to the coach, I said, Coach, tomorrow we begin training for the Penn Relays, because we really want to go back. But like Mr. Curtis says, and this is our sentiment, we're not going to go back for a show. We're going to go back and do damage on the track. And if we don't have the time, now we know the qualifying times, but we have actually seen the times that the students are running at. It's way beyond what we were expecting. And so we have to be running at those times. And so we have said it clearly. One of the criteria to go, and we want to go, but we will only go if we are running along the time that the other students are running, and not the regular ones, the ones that are running
the ones at the top.
Yes, and so Mr. Francisco, our coach, he, and along with Mr. Curtis and the coach from St. Vincent, they're actually coming up with a plan. I believe that they already did, because the starting time was June the 1st. Now I know that they had a meeting over the weekend, and we are going with this. We are also inviting, we had a meeting of the secondary school principals of the South, and I threw it out, I explained to them what we did and how we ended up there. And two of the other principals actually contacted me, Miss Dina Villafranco from Del Hill and Miss Harriet Lino from TCC expressed interest. We met with some of the sports personnel and Miss Dina yesterday, along with our people, because now we are serious and we're going.
James, what's the motivation here? Is it just that you think we have the next up-and-coming Usain Bolt somewhere in this region that we got to get out soon?
Well, in many of the Caribbean countries, including Belize, there's disparity.
Yeah.
And sports is actually not utilized enough. And some time ago, because I've been around Jamaica, Team Jamaica Bakel, I've been around for many years because we run a feeding program, and I explained that the last time, and we feed freely, all the Caribbean schools. Now I've seen what Jamaica does at the Penn Relays, what they continue to do, and the talent and production that comes out, even in a tourism product. Any way you could look at it, commercialize Jamaica.
Yeah.
And so I think this thing needs to happen for more countries in the Caribbean. And so when I look at Belize, I believe that if we could use sports as an academic vehicle for Belize, it could change Belize. Because it's already changing the culture of just these young people. Because when the 5K run was done, and I have to give a special thanks to Kyle Castillo, with Barbara Norellis and Sammy, Mark, Jose. These guys put the Hope Run project together, and that actually brought out the young men and persons in the community. So later on, when they would hear about when they would hear about something happening with the Penn Relays, all those same persons who would have come out to watch the race that day would have now be alerted. And so I think the whole of Belize could actually benefit from just these young fellas going to Penn, and even if it seems that they didn't do too well, they have pioneered something for Belize that a lot of people could run off, and there would have been thousands of persons asking, well, where are they from?
Yes.
And they would have been from Belize, and I think that question would just be answered year after year. You know.
So you use the example of Jamaica. Their training regimens start from people who are this little.
Babies.
We are really working with athletes, upper primary, high school level. Can we be able to reach the times and the achievements of the persons who are topping athletics without a children program?
I don't think it's impossible, because in many cases we're finding that athletes are not made. Some of them are born.
Yeah.
You know, and people would differ, but you see it. And for instance, in St. Vincent, there was a young man who just won the Carifta 800 meter. This young man has been running maybe from last summer. He never ran before that. He just entered a different school and he started running. And he went to the Carifta Games and won the 800 meter for the Carifta Games. Now, even that can tell you that athletes are not always created by us. They've been created by the bigger man. And we perfect them once we could find them. So I believe that we have so much talent hidden everywhere. We have young people with a lot of rage and anger, and they don't know what to do with it. And I think if they could beat them tracks, if you could put them somewhere where they could really get this stuff out, they can do some serious damage to the air just going through it. And so I'm not afraid to say that Belize can come and Belize can produce, because it took Jamaica from 1964 at the Penn Relays to now. It will be a long time before you get up there. It's a culture, and we don't have a track in the south, or we don't even have a proper track here. We have a concrete track. It's not a full synthetic track, but that wouldn't stop us. It will help if we get the track, and it'll bring the interest. But I would strongly encourage that this be the springboard for many other schools, many other athletes. And because we're setting an academic standard for persons going to the Penn Relays, because if even if this young man wants to go to the Penn Relays and his grades wasn't a certain level, which
Yeah.
principal and coach, they decides that he's not gonna go. He has to come up.
Yeah.
Because he could run, we can't produce foolish athletes either.
Yeah.
So you know what a catastrophe that
Yeah.
would be. So basically, I would say it could really do some wonderful things for Belize.
So Quincy, what's your motivation to continue with this athletics career?
Well, for me, I gradually and at the moment I have a crazy drive for it right now. I mean, I have my younger sister. She's 7 years old. She also ran in the 5K from Coco Plum to the BTL Park. She ran the entire thing. I mean, me personally, I was surprised because we were all there at the finish line and everything, and we heard they wanted us to come and meet 7 girls. So I was lost because I heard 7 girls, but when we came and I looked over the bridge and I saw my sister coming, it's not 7 girls, it's a 7-year-old girl.
And it was your sister.
And it was my sister, so I was like puzzled
Yeah.
at the start, and then I said, you know what, let's go. And she literally, when she saw the crowd, she even picked up a drive, and when I saw that, she literally took off, ran ahead of the crowd. And when I saw that, I mean, it personally motivated me because I mean, if my sister saw what I did and what I can accomplish, I know many others see the same thing, especially in terms of my villagers and whatever. And
Yeah.
that on a whole says a lot because being a mentor for some and being the first one to turn the wheel, and
Yeah.
it says a lot. And having known that you have the support and the motivation behind you, it's a lot. And for me personally, seeing it from my sister, I mean, it just
Sounds like you
drives me
guys have
crazy.
some natural talent in the family there.
Yes, mom.
All right.
And for me personally, I will keep on training, keep it consistent, and aim for the moon.
Well, we're grateful that you all came in to tell us about the experience in having Belize participate in the Penn Relays through Stann Ecumenical College. And we wish you the best of luck. Of course, as you've mentioned, you're aiming to go back again next year. And so when you start asking for the support, hopefully people will be as generous as they were last time. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and take our final break, and when we come back, we'll have our wrap-up, so stay tuned.